Channel 4. It may be impossible to create truly timeless designs, but two designers who come closer than most are Lella and Massimo Vignelli. I didn't quite like the way...
Our major aim is really to try to raise or improve the visual fabric of our society. I'm a strong believer that where things are better, people begin to be more sensitive about better issues, and altogether the level of taste or the level of culture somehow, comes up.
In this we, I don't think that Massimo is talking just about, us in particular, but really what is design, or at least as we perceive it, what the designer profession is.
This cross, which is called a processional cross, comes in the church at the beginning with the procession. They get to the altar, and then the cross is implanted. At that moment, the space becomes a church.
Blessed are you, Lord of heaven and earth. In mercy for our fallen world, you gave your only Son, that all those who believe in him should not perish, but have eternal life. We give thanks to you for the salvation you have prepared for us through Jesus Christ. Send now your Holy Spirit into our hearts, that we may receive our Lord with a living faith as he comes to us in his holy supper. In the night in which he was betrayed, our Lord Jesus took bread and gave thanks, broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take and eat. This is my body given for you. Do this for the remembrance of me." Again after supper, he took the cup, gave thanks and gave it for all to drink, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, shed for you and for all people for the forgiveness of sin. Do this for the remembrance of me." Join our prayers with those of your servants of every time and every place, and unite them with the ceaseless petitions of our great high priest, until he comes as victorious Lord of all.
When we had the briefing of what the altar should be, the briefing word is, it is God's table. So I felt that it should be rather powerful. We like to play with the different value that the silver can have, from the reflective to the engraved that capture the light instead of bouncing it back. And this is a technique that we have used also in glass, engraving the glass, so that again it captures the light and it becomes quite a different material.
Majority of the churches have a lot of chairs, and when you get into a church, you see this forest of legs, which we never like. So in order to accommodate the necessity of overflow of public, but at the same time not to have the presence, the obsessive presence of empty seats, we decided to split the sitting capability in two areas. One represented by the pews, which are mobile elements that could be arranged in many different ways, this way, that way, facing to each other, etc. And then the other half on steps, so we have this forum of steps all around this arena, so that when they need only the front part, that's enough. When they need more seats, they can open up the steps, and there right away they have all extra seats.
We wanted to enclose the sitting space as similar to the marvelous New England churches' stalls. And then, since this church is used really as a communal space for concert, conference, lectures, and as a matter of fact, as we said before, it becomes a church only when the cross is brought in. We had this as seating, and then we fold out the kneeler, so that generally it can be just as a lecture room. The design committee of the church came up with the idea of having a program for the ladies of the congregation to embroider the pillow. So we were asked for a design, and after starting with some religious symbol, we went to a very geometric design because we felt that it was not proper to sit on a cross or that sort of thing. And then we introduced very bright color that we wanted them to recall the colors of the stained glass window of the medieval cathedrals, and give them 4 color combination, and they choose them and mix them in any way they wanted.
We went to Bonn where the organ was made, and they told us that really an organ can have any shape you want. So they don't have to be with uppers and lowers and things like that, but really could be as square as a box. And since we had that kind of a situation of a flat corner there between the two things, really the situation became like that. That was the idea of the organ. You have it as a voice right between the two walls.
The design of this chair was dictated by the need for the officiant of the Mass to sort of sit on a chair that had the possibility of letting hang the vestment. The only way to do it really was using a metal tube. So we devised of putting over a complete sleeve of very thick linen. Actually, this is the linen that you use for luggage. So we went back to very natural and traditional materials. The symbol of the church is the cross at the intersection of the streets of New York.
Well, this is the baptismal font, and we designed it in such a way that it could work for a immersion, so you can have baptismal by immersion. So the steps keep going down under the water there, and in that way they sort of symbolize the mountains and the Jordan River here. Or more to Kurt, you can have it for over-the-counter kind of a baptistry if one doesn't want really to get wet all the way. And of course this part is in granite while everything else is in wood to symbolize the solidity of that particular celebration. Everything is movable, everything is expandable, everything is part of a theater and symbology and celebration. the things that we were talking about the house is the way we use the house, which is for us as as a theater in a sense. We keep changing things around, all the time, and we like that. There is nothing which is really fixed, The sofas are right now they're like this, some other times the other way. There is some sense of location, some sense of stability, but it's not sacred. Things change very quickly, and they're designed in such a way that they could change around.
We designed this sofa because we really needed the sofa, right?
It's always like this. When we need something, we know how to design it. If we don't need it, it's very difficult. And we want to have something which was more architectonic rather than a soft piece of furniture.
And definitely also something that will stay in the middle of the floor, because we cannot stand furniture pushed against the wall unless it's built in, So really we have this thing of always keeping the furniture in the middle of the floor. And you should think also that our proportion changed, because in 1964 this was a very wide arm, and now instead it's really nothing. We had this notion of having it, sort of shining and black. Massimo started with that, and so we discussed what material it could be, and Massimo said, I think Belgian marble.
Black Belgian marble.
Black Belgian marble.
Then the manufacturer says, well, two things. First, I don't do marble. Second, it would be kind of heavy. And I say, yes. Oh, well, okay, if you can't do it in marble, what would be the next thing? And so I can do it in wood. So, okay, if you can do it in wood, let's do it lacquer like a Steinway piano. And it was about a year and a half later that the Germans developed polyester lacquer, and so this was done thereafter in polyester lacquer. And now is good because you can put glasses in top, nothing, affects the surface.
It was also one of the first uses of this new material, the polyester lacquer, for living room furniture, because it was used for furniture, but mainly for kitchen furniture. So this sofa went into production in Italy in 1964, and I guess in 1967 it started being imported in the United States by Stanley. And he really had a great success with all the architects, and he was used a lot, especially in office interiors. So the bed is, again, of the same family, or Saratoga family, of the sofas. And as a matter of fact, the side of the bed is the back of the three-seater sofa, so it's sort of a modular piece for production. Again, we wanted to have the bed in the middle of the room, and this is very comfortable because you still have the backboard. The lamp was designed for Artelucci in Milano, and
it was designed to be shipped flat. Instead of it being a big crate like this, it's a shallow box.
And then there is the metaphora table.
A friend that is from the area of Carrara, where they make all the marble, the Pisa area, came over and said, I have a lot of people which make marble, can you do something? And so he was sitting in front of me across the desk, and I just drew those four basic shapes, and I drew the glass top, and I said, how about something like this? And he says, fine, terrific.
We designed this table for the Rosenthal line of furniture. That particular table is designed for being in components. These are also possible legs. Philip Rosenthal is always interested in collaboration between artist and design and that sort of things.
And we are too.
And we are too. As a matter of fact, that's one of the, the thing that we feel is very important in order to take out the design of the so-called sterility of the modern movement is probably to go back in more collaboration with designers.
With artists.
And with artists, I said. And so he was always asking, and I immediately had in mind the artist that will be right for it, because Arnaldo Pomodoro, which is a very good friend of ours, has also the fact of taking a geometrical form and then breaking it. This is a perfect cylinder on this side, which is the outside of the table, and then on the inside, under the weight of the table, we stand that, it rests here, is sort of breaking down.
It is, yes, a cylinder, but it's a cylinder which has a life inside, and all of a sudden this life has been exposed. It's a way of going beyond primary shape without really losing that primary shape at the same time.
Quelli di vetro di là, quelli di vetro tondi di là. Forse è meglio, no? Perché quelli lunghi lì, no?
No, but they take too much room, Lella. They take too much room.
You think they don't?
At first.
Tutto bianco, o li metto su 2 di questi, Massimo?
Sì.
2 di questi, bianchi o neri?
No, prendi quelli dolci per prosciutto. Quelli non va bene.
Sì, ma quando tutti le famiglie li metto in fondo.
No.
I think it's...
Well, I don't know. You know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing.
Bianchi o neri si facciano su questi?
When I was younger, I had the dream that design could transform the society somehow. And of course, we know much better that design doesn't transform the society, but certainly could make a better one. I'm a strong believer, for instance, that every one of us is affected by the kind of things that we have around. I was having lunch with the president of Chiga, when we were doing all the glass and silverware, and he asked me, Massimo, what are you going to do for the glasses? And so I showed to him the domes of the La Salute, in Venice, across from the Griffith, which are like that. And I say, you see that? That would be your glasses. And I say, upside down. And it's exactly what these are, But we love to do transformation. This is one thing that we like. For a long time, we had this idea that we had to design for a timelessness. So we had to design something which would be going on forever,
Good for years.
Yes, right. Exactly. Good forever, just like some of the things of the past and so on and so forth. And it wasn't until one morning I woke up and I was shaving, and all of a sudden I had this tragic, shattering intuition that timelessness, after all, was nothing but another trend. Or another fad. So I called Lella and I said, look, Lella, this is what it happens, it's nothing but another fad, And from that day, we still like timelessness, but some of his gilding is gone. Every dinner starts beautiful candle lights and all these things, crystal and proper, and everything is in order, And then gradually, while you're eating, while you're consuming your banquet, the whole thing gradually devolves into a garbage can situation. So why don't we start at the end, which is the terrible moment, rather than starting at the beginning, which is the pretty moment? Now, every China company, designs beautiful pattern to be seen at the beginning. We designed it to be seen at the end. So what we didn't like was that terrible operation that everyone has to do, to go and get, the flatware out of a plate, to put the things and, with all the leftovers. So what you do is this, at the end of the meal, instead of going that way, what you do, you push in your fork, there, and you take this plate, dirty plate, and you take another dirty plate, and you do the same operation, you just push it in. Then you take another dirty plate there, you put it in, then you take a clean plate, and what do you have? A clean pile of dirty dishes. Never happened before in history.
The Heller dishes, they were first designed and began to be produced in 1964, so it's about 20 years ago. It was the first design that took in consideration the stackability. That was possible because of the material, which is plastic, and in the dish is melamine, which is sort of the best plastic, and we resist dishwasher and everything. The beginning, they were produced just in yellow, red and white, and then about 10 years later we went in all the rainbow color that you see here, and then we came out with the mug. It was really a new design at the moment, and now we see a lot of imitation. The original design of the cup and the original design of this particular handle was continuing the top border into the handle with this indentation. naturally, since the Americans are used to big cup of coffee, they will keep pouring coffee till the coffee will go down the handle. And then, since this saucer is completely flat, go down on the saucer, and it was a big disaster. So the client insisted that we close that particular gap, and this is what happened, which on the other hand is so big that you won't need it. But so the design has to change to this, and this is the one that was widely copied. The detail remain in the picture, and in this position the picture is closed, you cannot pour, and then when you change it around you have the picture open for pouring. This year, 1983, we came out with the black color that you see here that looks sort of very contemporary, and then when it's sort of passed with the white, that's really a striking effect. These were done 10 years later for Casigliani. The plastic is still melamine, but is much heavier and thicker, and especially in the black and red, it has the quality of oriental lacquer. The mug has a little cover a la Chinese for keeping your tea or coffee warm, that then becomes the saucer. We first came to America with fellowships because, as all the young European coming of age on the 50s, the fascination of America was still very strong. And they were still, it was still a good, clean country politically. It's not like in the 60s. Anyhow, we came, as I said, with fellowships, and Massimo got sort of a fellowship to teach, to be an assistant professor at IIT in Chicago.
We stayed there in Chicago for 2 years, then we went back to Milan and set up our own office, and we stayed there for 5 years. And 5 years later, decided to come back for a trip, just for a vacation trip. We went back to Chicago, and at that point we decided with some friends in Chicago to set up an international design company, which will have an office in Chicago, one in New York, and one in Milan. In a year time, we had 10 offices around the world, and I was in charge of all of them, so I was continuously going.
He was the design director.
So it was the great opportunity for getting that big ego trip or megalomaniac idea of a super design organization out of your chest. And indeed, we had the largest design organization in the world. Which prompted us at a certain point to love the small size again, and that's why in '71 we quit that partnership, and we opened our own office, small, which now is getting bigger and bigger by the day, but at least we don't have any more that expansion dream because we went through already that.
At this point, we really feel very lucky to be here. With our European background, and also of having the possibility of exchanging our American experience, sharing our American experience with our European clients.
For a lot of particularly the Italian companies, they find it very easy to come to us because they understand that we can understand them. And at the same time, they also know that we have a different point of view because of this exposure to American methodologies of work, the entire exposure to the American way of life and way of business. We like to work on corporate identities because that has a great impact, and a lot of diversification. That's why we like to do packaging. This is why we like to design furnitures and environments where things happen, showrooms and exhibitions and you name it, all kinds of things. And because we think that the more these things are around, and this is why we like to do books and magazines and newspapers, as a matter of fact, because more of these things are around, the more you begin to weave the fabric of of the society in visual terms.
The program for Santa Cruz was a clear example of a client that really needed to change his image. They were importing before from India the ethnic clothes for years. And all of a sudden, when the ethnic period was finished, they wanted to enter in a new period and present themselves to the department store as a different company. So at that point, a new corporate image, a new graphic program was really needed and justifiable. This company is a young junior company, and so we try to communicate the sense of change and the sense of fun with our design.
Rather than giving them just one logo that they just kind of plugged in on all their various pieces, we gave them a palette of interchangeable parts that all add up to the graphic look when they're all put together and combined in different ways. For instance, they have on all their pieces a rule that we call piping, then their logo, the type, which is always in the same typeface.
But these two elements stay always the same, but in different color and against different background.
Originally, we started out with 9 different colors that could be combined in any different way they wanted, which was the graphic image that you see in the stationery here, and then in these pieces here. The corporate stationery design for Santa Cruz, it sort of goes against the grain totally of what we've come to expect for stationery for a corporation. Instead of just one look, they have every piece of stationery is in 3 different color combinations. Even if you want to match up your stationery with your envelope, there's a different pattern in the background. The letterhead has lines and the envelope has dots. And then even each person's business card is kind of a fun thing where the tear is made into a die-cut edge that opens up to reveal the name of the person and the company. And every single person in the company has his name in 3 different kinds of cards.
This is really the identity through diversity, which we say is the new way to identify companies in the 80s. Not just giving the rubber stamp look of everything looking the same, but just going with the time and changing. We are now in front of the Santa Cruz store in Bloomingdale. These are plug-in little stores that we put in the department store with their own fixture and their own signage and ambience, including also the music and the lights. As you can see, we have the green and the blue and the pink that we always change and mix. So this gives a sense of young and fun and unexpected. One of the elements is the tear that we play in various ways, as you can see on the poster, and then also the broken grid. So we always interchange these elements and play them different depending on the space in which we are. And I believe in models here with still the tags on. And you see the clothes, they intermix, and you can add another piece on top, layering and so on. You have the perfect shoes and socks.
Like ever since I was a kid, I still get lost. No, I just lose my friends or whoever I'm with. Fun.
Oh no! Spots!
Oh, spots!
Not another spot.
If you've got spots, ask for Oxy. Oxy's only available from the chemist.
Oxy, please!
Oxy's special formula has been clinically shown to help clear up spots. Try Oxy 5 the first time you treat your spots. Clinically tested on young skin. Or Oxy 10, the most effective Oxy you can buy. You didn't ask for spots, but you've got to ask for Oxy.
BAT are making space for a new factory, so they're clearing £50,000 worth of surplus windows starting from under £15. Well, you probably won't beat that. So get down to BAT. We're open 9 to 8 Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 Saturday. BAT, Bradford Road, Batley. Telephone 473-643.
This fridge is a fridge with a difference. It's no colder than a hot point. It holds no more than the same sized Indesit. Its guarantee is very much the same as an Electrolux. It is British, which is a bit unusual, but But would that alone make it preferable to, say, a Zanussi? So why does it outsell any of them? Why is the Lec different? If you compare prices in the shops, you'll find out for yourself.
Lec, the fridge with a difference.
Here's a wild, new taste from America. Squirt, America's softest big drink.
After you've qualified for your first job, find out who's best qualified to take on your bank account.
Next, please.
Which bank was the first to offer school leavers a check guarantee card automatically in return for a salary check? Which was the first bank to offer a credit card to 18-year-olds in employment?
Next, please.
Which was the first of the big 4 banks to offer school leavers a year's free banking?
Next, please.
And which is the only high street bank to open on a Saturday? When you've looked at all the candidates,
Good luck, dear.
we think you'll end up with a short list of 1.
Do you know which break I enjoy the most? My egg break. Now keep calm as you approach the table. Don't rush it. I'm going for the brown first. So carefully line up your shot. Concentrate on a perfect contact. And... there. And now you're in perfect position for the yellow. Lovely. All it takes is practice. Eggs are smashing. Go smash an egg.
When we design a book, the first thing we do is to decide what kind of a grid the book should have. And this is the grid for this book with faces, which is the history of portrait in photography. Also, we have to provide a certain flow from a big picture to a small picture to many pictures, etc., so that you have a certain kind of sequence, a certain kind of dynamic sense of the turning of the pages. We start with sketches like this, and here is the final product. So this would be this page, and this would be that picture, and here where the captions are supposed to be, which is in the second column. As a matter of fact, you could see it even like this. You know, if I overlap, now you can see why I do the grid. Now the grid tells me where to put these, how big this should be, and how big that should be. See, it helps in working out the whole book. This is another book. I'll show you a few pages. This is the beginning of the book. This is the, the title page, and it goes on. And of course, the primary colors were very much part of Noel, so we decided to bring those forward. And then this is the text area. I was saying, text and photographs and captions over there. Of course, we have this band here, for the image and the text. However, it's not so rigid as a band. Sometimes it opens up in pages like these, which are at the detail, or, slightly little thing with a penetration this way, or again, this kind of pattern, or up and downs like that. This case again, you see there is a lot of variations which are within that basic format. We were very lucky when we came over because one of the first clients we had was Noel, and Noel had fabulous heritage of pioneering modern design. They came to us asking for a whole new graphic program. We're looking what they had. They really didn't have a cohesive structure to link the whole thing. And their catalogs were very badly done. The price lists were not clear enough. We saw a lot of things that could be improved, and so we did it. And the funny thing is that in doing that, we transformed completely the look of that segment of the industry because everybody else followed the Noel approach all around the world. We do not have a particular style, but we have maybe an attitude, we were talking about. And a perfect example of that attitude is the Bloomingdale story, how that came about. We got the assignment of designing the packaging, and a stroke of luck happened that we got on the mail a catalog from a paper company introducing a whole range of beautiful color, glossy papers. And it came to my mind right away saying, why instead of doing a box the same as we always did before for department stores, why don't we have boxes made in all these beautiful 9 different colors, you know? And along with that, of course, the whole concept immediately became alive, and without any logo, without anything on it, but just a rubber band that will have the name on, and so you can throw away the rubber band.
Being the first user, it was possible to use all the colors in an unbranded box, and this became so strong that after that nobody could use the same concept, especially in New York, because Bloomingdale is very powerful, and so the fact of having this incredible array of colors in the boxes established their identity. At that point, we have all the boxes coming out from a simple white or yellow shopping bag in which you had just a Bloomingdale. So this was branded, these were completely unbranded, and when you had them, you know, each department or each size has a different color, so that if you have multiple purchase, you will have a whole carnival of colors in your bag. And then you go home, and since the boxes are so beautiful and unbranded, you can use them again.
We had a tremendous identity and tremendous diversity. And in our profession, this is continuously the game. The balance between identity and diversity is really what is at the base of corporate identity and communication throughout. In Europe, we are much more educated and keen toward identity. And over here are educated and keen toward diversity. So it seems natural that somebody like us, that have the 2 backgrounds by now, could put these 2 things together in a way that works.
Our preferred interior job is showrooms and exhibitions. Showrooms because they really give you the chance to be very free and very creative. You just have to create a mood in the space and something that really becomes very memorable. In the Artemide showroom at the Pacific Design Center in LA, the concept was very clear. Since Artemide is mainly a lamp showroom, it was necessary to create separate niches for all the lamps. So we divided half of the space with these walls from floor to ceiling, creating this narrow corridor, all of the same dimension, in which then we created different landscapes. The Ital Center showroom in Chicago was for 10 Italian furniture manufacturers. So we had to divide the space in 10 equal subspaces. And we did this with the walls, which don't reach the ceiling, so that we still have a sense of the total space. We introduced the big sphere and the pyramid as some elements that would recall elements of classic architecture. The same thing is with stores. You try to do something that really characterizes the space, to give sort of an imprint of a memorable feature that makes that space unique. Two connecting floors of high density merchandise. These 2 floors are really tied together by the stair, and they live together. The task here was to create 4 or 5 different areas or boutique. We couldn't really divide it very well because the floor space is very little. So we just try to have sort of a unifying element and some diversified elements. As a unifying element, we choose to have the ceiling, in which we have 2 different kinds of lights, also for energy conservation, the cold cathode for general illumination, and then incandescent for spotlighting and highlight. lighting. And then the floor, which is all in this soft gray. Then we have an area here in which we cover everything, the walls and the fixture with gray flannels, menswear gray flannel. We designed these poles, each one is different from the other, with the logo of the various designers. Another of our favorite elements, that is the fins coming out from the wall. In this other area, we choose to use oak, which is a sort of classics for men stores. All the fixtures are movable, they can be rearranged, and they are rearranged pretty often in different situations. We have these movable sliding mirror panels, which can be placed in any position along this wall, in front of these fins, especially when you are low in merchandise and you want to close off the part. And they also work very well for the customer to try on a jacket and reflect itself.
What else can you show me so I can try it? Well, let me show you everything in here is a 30. I'll show you what I have in the 38s. Okay. And you pick from there.
In the offices, we do prefer sort of a understated, very calm and sort of restful atmosphere, going after the correct detail for that particular space without trying to do something very unique or overcharge the design. This is our Saratoga sofa, which you've already seen in our house, and we have all the pieces, the tables, the corner table that make sort of an architectural grouping. In our lacquer collection, we design a complete set for the office, so that the same furniture can be used in the office or in the house, which is quite common in Europe, but not in the United States, because here there is sort of a strong division between the office that is used, the furniture that is used in the offices or private. In order to make the desk practical, we had the center section in leather, because naturally the lacquer is quite delicate, and so this works as a writing pad, very practical. Another design of ours is the Rotonda chair for Sanar, produced in the United States. And this chair really, which resemble in a sense the wicker chair of the beginning of the century, is a very easy technologically to produce, because it's just a metal frame inside here, and this curve was determined by the fabric stretching between the top and bottom metal frame. And it became a very natural curve that then naturally was sort of stabilized in a mold for the foam, expanded foam that there is inside. Another interesting feature is that the seat is completely detached all the way in the back, is attached so only in the front, so that it has some spring when you sit and is quite comfortable. And this chair comes in two sizes, the side and the lounge, and is also it comes at a very good price because of the way it is fabricated. It's in a sense is really a logical production. The design is really integral with the production. Another chair of which we are particularly proud is this wooden chair called Acorn. We are proud of it because it's a real chair with 4 legs, which is quite rare in these days. And also another interesting feature is that the joint of the side and the front rail is at the same point. Generally there is one up and one down. And also that this and this section are exactly the same. So out of one section of wood you do the whole chair. The only point that is the thing that is different is the back, which also has a nice sweep and is very comfortable for a wooden chair. The back is very nice. This was done again for Suna. The prototypes were done in Italy. Italy is the best place for prototype because they are so proud and happy of doing something new that they really work a lot on that and help you to solve all the problems inherent to a new product, to a new piece of furniture. Then, when is the moment to start producing, to mechanize and make the production swift and easy, they lose interest. That's the thing that we always say about. As a matter of fact, then this chair was not possible to produce it there really in quantity because the quality control and delivery, all these problems, so now it's produced in the United States and Canada. This is the office of Mr. Rosen, the president of Puritan Corporation, who is the manufacturer of the Calvin Klein jeans. The conference room table is in 3 sections so that they can be split in 3 separate tables because this is used also for the executive dining room, so when they have parties they will divide it or make it smaller. Generally they have here just 2 sections so that the table is not so immense, but today they are going to have the big board meeting, so they set it up. This that you can see used as the final leg is in reality an intermediate leg. We can pull out this plug, this quarter circle plug, and add here another table that they have stored standing upright in a closet with another set of 2 legs, so that this will become 4 units long. The material here is the same as in the other office. We have the linen wool and natural silk drapes. I like to use the natural materials, and also at the end they are very durable and less expensive than the other things. Another aspect of our design work is signage, and an example here is in the city car, the elevator signage in the lobby, which is a quite complex system because they have even and odd floors. We use a very simple system of the green and the red color. The sign is cut into aluminum panel and back with the plexi with the light behind. This is the temporary sign for the leasing of the space of the building. It's just very simple done with the painted silk-screened panel. The most important part, and also the most difficult many times, of the signage program is the information desk and directory. In this particular building, we solved it very simply because the directory is not long, and also the person is always there, so we put just a simple panel, and then the information is through the asking the question, which we feel that the person is really the best information desk that you can have. And again, a sign for the International Design Center, New York, the satellite office for the new showroom building that will be across the bridge is here on 3rd Avenue, and is still screened simply on the black glass of the building. We started the new program for the signage of the New York subway in 1966. Our signage system still is in use with some variations. For example, they changed the background of the sign from white to black because the white had a lot of problem with the graffiti, but now I see that they are starting graffitiing also on the black, so that will be a constant problem. The map was changed a couple of years ago because they felt that it has to be more related to the geography of the area. Our map was absolutely geometrical.
Our Hauserman is a company which is making walls. They also make low partitions for office systems. They are probably the best company in the world, the most famous one in that business. When we had to design the showroom, the option of filling it up with office systems, just like any other company in that business are doing, was obviously there, but it was also obvious that we didn't want to do it that way, because it wouldn't have taken Hauserman outside of that herd, and make it an outstanding company. And all of a sudden, this idea of using Dan Flavin came about, and particularly because we had seen an exhibition at Leo Castelli that Dan Flavin did, on which he was using his lights in corridors. So all of a sudden, the whole thing came back clear to the mind. Although we were already pursuing the idea of corridors from the beginning. Originally, the idea was to have a bunch of corridors opening up, and have something happen. So we create all this big Flavin installation, which is the largest installation of his work. And part of this installation now has been given to a museum of contemporary art in Los Angeles. But it takes a company like Hauserman, with that kind of enlightenment, to understand that they could get much more by showing what the company is about and project an image that they cannot achieve in any other way by showing just the product. But the product is all there. You go around and all these walls are made with their walls. So it is actually really the best demonstration of how light can transform their own product, or how their product could be transformed by an imaginative approach with environmental conditions.
The decorator is just concerned with the surface. He generally doesn't try to change the configuration of the space. The designer instead is more in a position of the architect. He concerns itself with the space, generally start transforming it. He concerns itself with the light, and he concerns itself with the furniture that most of the time might be designed for that space. So the designer has a more thoroughly and complete point of view.
One of the reasons why we decided to come to New York, we wanted to prove ourselves and hit a higher ceiling. And well, we didn't know that really New York doesn't have a ceiling at all. The most incredible thing about here is that there is no ceiling. So continuously you have this frustration. I'm good enough. Am I good enough? Am I significant enough? And because you never have the reverberation, the waves goes up and keeps going. It doesn't bounce back that much. Just a little bounce back, but not much. And that gives you a tremendous drive and a tremendous courage. All the time,
And you really have to keep, on your toes and getting better and continuously changing, which is really continually questioning what you are doing, which is really one of the most important very alive situation.
This questioning attitude is really what keep us moving.
Really looking always for the inner meaning and not just for a form. And that's another, deeper level of research and of questioning that we feel we have.
We are for a non-design design, a non-graphic graphics. We are against prettiness. We love that kind of the communication, things which are strong and comes out for what they are. And as I was mentioning probably before, things try to find their own expression. All we have to do is to help that process, and bring it forward.